Could I please invite them of the cast onto the stage? Noel Clarke, Johnny Harris, Michelle Ryan.
All right, thanks. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Hey.
Hi. No. Thanks a lot. And the producer, Colin Jones, and Simon Godley, one of the co-creators of the original play. Thank you all for coming along tonight. I'll kick off by talking about the performances, because I think one of the great things about this film is the central pairing of you, Noel, and Johnny, two actors who, let's face it, aren't known for playing sensitive, creative types. And here you are playing a stand-up comedy duo. What was that change of pace for you, Noel, a big part of the appeal?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, part of the reason I took the job was because exactly what you said. It was a role that I hadn't played before. I think people are used to seeing me in certain roles, and you know, part of being an actor is changing what you do all the time. There was a journalist, and I always say this, and I always say that, I always say this. There was a journalist that described my career as schizophrenic, and
wasn't me.
It wasn't, but weirdly, at first I wasn't sure about it, but then I took it as a compliment. And what she was saying was that she's unable to pin me down because going from Doctor Who to kidulthood to adulthood to Centurion, like I always do something different. So you can't say he does that, and Huge was something I wanted to do different.
And you were actually cast quite late in the day in terms of the production.
Yeah, I think they had someone else originally. He doesn't give anything away, but yeah, I think they had someone else originally who couldn't do it. And but you know, to me, there's no second choices. Everything where there's chaos, there's opportunity, and you know, a job came my way, and I took it, and I did it.
Well, Colin, you're the producer. Can I just ask how you thought of Noel for the part? Because your initial choice fell out. Is that right?
Is that working? Yeah. I got to know Noel on a different project, actually. And so I got to know him in a kind of actor-producer capacity, and thought that, because my main job is actually as a casting director, but and so I got to know him, and I thought he was kind of quite cheeky chappy, actually, and he's quite different to his public persona, and thought be quite interesting, and he might actually want to do it as well, because we're paying so little money, but it might be quite interesting for him to do something a bit different. But he is, you know, outside of when you see him play the hoodie gangster, he's actually very funny. So I thought it might work, and then kind of basically just got in touch, didn't you? You read it over the weekend and met with Ben, and I mean, and then it was about 3 or 4 days later.
Yeah, 3 or 4 days, very quick. I got it on a Friday, read it over the weekend, met them on a Monday, and then they were like, "We want you to do it." I was like, "Cool, let's do it."
And Johnny, it was a little bit unsettling for you, wasn't it? Because you'd actually rehearsed the part with the other actor.
Yeah.
So how did that work for you?
I mean, it wasn't that much. I was filming another film in Germany before we started this one, so we'd done the rehearsals, and then I went away and like Noel, I think with Centurion, it was Black Death, so it was very different from this. So I was sort of separated from this myself for a little bit before it, and so when I came back into it, I don't know. I think what Noel said, every cloud has a silver lining, and as soon as I met Noel, as soon as the two of us met, I think it was evident straight away that we'd be all right, and we was going to have fun on this.
So, like your character, Warren, are you just a frustrated, funny man struggling to get out there?
Yeah, I think that's the story of my life. I think you've just summed up my biography. I've before this, I'd played a few dark roles, and the stuff I was more well known for. I remember when I left college, I was often cast as the soft, gullible type, and I couldn't break out of that for ages. And then I did London to Brighton, and I couldn't break out of that then for a long while. And so I've given up trying to break out of things now. I think if you just go with the flow, and I think with some actors, I'm talking about myself, you want to have De Niro's career within a year, you know, and I figure there'll be time to play all sorts of characters, God willing I'm around long enough, you know. So for now, I just take what comes my way, and this was lovely for me. It was a real nice challenge. Yeah.
Well, let's just see another clip. I think this is a scene of you and Noel meeting for the first time, perhaps. So whose idea was the afro and glasses?
The production, Ben Miller, and you know, they wanted me to really look different as well, you know, and the glasses weren't enough. I think my head was shaved because of whatever film I was doing beforehand. So they put the afro and the I was like, yeah, cool, let's do it, man. Just make it different. Let's just go for it. So we did.
And so has it given you a taste for lighter, more comedic material doing this? Because you're very, very warm and witty. We see a real sort of breezy side to you that we haven't seen before, I think.
Yeah, I'm a mildly amusing fella, like Colin said. You know, so mildly, yeah. So I think I think what you'll see is exactly what I've always wanted to do. Is just I'm always going to do different roles. You won't ever see me in anything more than twice. I think it's always about moving on and jumping around and doing things different, and that provides longevity. A lot of people that aren't too far away think everything's about where they are now and don't realise that actually it's about where you're going to be.
And Michelle, what was the attraction of the project for you?
Well, I've always been a fan of Ben's, and I got a call.
Ben Miller, the
Yes,
director, yeah.
Ben Miller, the director. And we've kind of worked together before, and it was my year of playing waitresses. I played 3 in 1 year, so I thought, well, I might as well do it. And it was a fun one, and I remember the first day of filming, they were like, okay, we need you to smoke, and I don't smoke, so I had to smoke like 30 cigarettes. And that was quite a challenge. But then by the end of it, I was like, oh, hang on a minute. There's kind of, I see where people do it. And I was like, no, enough, got to stop. And also
She loved it.
And also getting to work with Noel, we've got a long history. So it was like fun people, and it was a fun script. I mean, it's not often that you get a comedy script that is as honest as this. I think it's just a really great story of 2 friends and their journey, and it's very much the comedy circuit, which is kind of overlooked for the big comedic sort of field which everyone sort of sees now. It's actually, this is grassroots, and I
It's
like
not very
the script.
glamorous.
No.
And frankly, it's not very funny. I mean, it's hard work.
Yeah, and there's chicken suits involved, so,
Yeah.
it's fun.
And how did you find Ben as a first-time director?
He was really gentle. He was like very, very kind of like, very easy and very confident. He was great. I mean, you wouldn't know that it was his first time directing.
And Noel, were you tempted to give him some advice, being a director yourself?
Yeah, I was always like, move the camera there, man. No, of course not. No, he's the director. I just let him do his job, and I just stayed out of it. It's a relief for me when I'm not directing, because I can let everyone else stress. I can just sit back and laugh while they're all like tearing their hair out. Oh, what are we gonna do? I'm just like, when I'm directing, I have to deal with all of that. So it's good.
And Simon, you're one of the co-creators of the original play that was staged at Edinburgh back in the 90s. You were Ben Miller's former double act partner.
Is the mic on? We got the mic on. Good. I was basically Ben's last fling before he got married to Alexander Armstrong. So huge was the love child that was produced from a summer of love, basically. Yes.
And so,
that's the answer to the question. Yes.
were you surprised when Ben came to you all these years later and said he was dusting it down and turning it into a film?
Yes. But we had thought about it for a long time. It was a film. It was a story about when we got together. It was about 2 characters who have very different views of what it is to be huge, and the ambitions run away with them a little bit more than the ability and the reality. So it's reality versus dreams all the time. So it's very funny to have a go at making it into a film, and a few extra challenges as well, because a film's different to a play.
Absolutely. Your character, Johnny, I mean, he's very, very determined to make it, but there's precious little evidence that he's actually very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on him? Do you see Noel's character as the person who will complete you, who will bring out your funny side?
Yeah, I mean, he's so driven. Yeah, I guess that's what he sees when he first sees Clarke, is the answer, the missing link, because I think Warren's biggest problem is himself, and but he doesn't see that, He blames everything else. He blames every person, place, or thing. If it's that manager, it's that club, it's that, it's everyone else's fault.
So Simon, is Johnny playing you, basically, the unfunny one that didn't make it?
Well, you could say. Well, you could say that. You could also. The other thing is, of course, is that I've got the closest thing to an afro here and glasses. So
yeah.
you can work out which one you reckon it is. Yeah, funnily enough, the roles kept switching. When Ben and I were working on various bits, we'd have huge arguments about what was funny and what wasn't funny, and funnily enough, that argument became funnier than what we were writing, so and more real. So, some of the discussions that go in there have got a huge base of truth in them. So, yes, of course, I identify with Warren and I identify with Clarke. And I was in a comedy double act for years and my partner was called Clarke. So everything got fed into it. It wasn't, no.
Well, let's see another clip. Michelle, you've worked with Noel before on 4321. Were you surprised to see this other side to him, the sort of light comic side?
Well, I guess I know there's a softer side, but it is funny seeing him playing so geeky because he's not. You're not that, but yeah, it's kind of
She knows me pretty well, so I mean, she's probably not the way you guys are thinking, but she's probably seen a lot of sides. They suddenly were like,
no, nothing there.
Yeah, she knows me pretty well, so I think she's seen.
But it's so true. When you're in director mode, you're completely different to when you're acting.
Yeah.
It's just completely different.
In what way?
Well, I think, as you said, it's so much more relaxing when you're the acting. When you're in the acting, because you're relaxed and you're having a laugh, and it's not your responsibility. But then as director, it's like, he's director mode. So there's a big difference.
Yeah, you have flashbacks of me shouting, dead eyes, Michelle, dead eyes. You see me in 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm like, dead eyes.
Yeah, very specific.
Yeah.
And did you improvise at all on set? Was there any of that, or was it all quite tightly scripted?
No, but there was some improvisation.
There was bits, but I think there was bits, but it wasn't as Ben was still quite, he wanted the improvisation quite close to the, it's like, well, as long as you get from A to Z, and you go, great, so I can go over there, but like, no, still kind of go that way. And, okay, so you could improvise a bit, but not as much as some other films. I think.
We wouldn't improvise whole scenes. We were allowed to paraphrase and,
Yeah.
I mean, and working on a tight budget, does that make your job harder? Do you have less time to rehearse and to get it right first take, that kind of thing?
Well, it depends. I mean, if it depends if you do your job for money or if you do your job for the love of it, and I think that's the key, really. If any of us were doing it for money, none of us would have done it. Is the real truth. We did it because it was something that we really loved and felt passionate about, and that's what acting, and that's what jobs you love should be about. And so, it does make it tougher, it makes it tighter, but that's the business.
But Colin, you've been working with Ben Miller on another project that you've been trying to get off the ground for some time, and then you switched your attention to this, and it all came together pretty quickly. Is that right?
Yeah, I knew Ben from a more ambitious in terms of the kind of budget behind it project, which is a romantic comedy, and I've been developing it for ages and like loads of projects. In the UK particularly, it feels. It kind of almost got made and was close, and we had various actors attached, and then it didn't quite make it. So we thought it'd be better to do something much more kind of contained, and which is, actually, in the end, it was quite ambitious, huge, in terms of the kind of locations and various things used. But from the play, initially, it was just one, obviously, as a play is, it was just one set, and so it felt, and two guys, and in the end, it actually ended up with 50 actors and 18 locations. But at the outset, we got 100 grand committed to it. It was made for more than that. I'm not allowed to say how much it was, but not much more than that. And we could set a date, and it was going to happen. And the only thing that derailed it was Johnny got another job, which surprisingly was for more money, because everyone did get paid, but it was minimum wage kind of rates. Actually, I didn't get paid, by the way. We waited for Johnny to do your other job, and then there was a date, and it was going. And I think people wanted to work with Ben. He's a really interesting, first-time director, and it was. I don't know. There's something quite cosy about the whole thing. I mean, I would say that because you got paid so badly, everybody. But it was quite a kind of team effort, wasn't it? And something quite fun. I mean. In some ways, the kind of taking the money element out. I wouldn't do it again, by the way, if you're looking at me like I'm about to offer rubbish money again. But there was something, I don't know, anyway, it's collegiate kind of atmosphere. So.
Yeah.
But Simon, you played a key role, particularly for one scene, because you're now a dentist, I believe, and a lot of your patients
No.
are celebrities, stand-up comics who
I'm not a qualified dentist. I've sort of had a go at doing it, but it's sort of.
How can you have a
that's
go?
what I mean. No, well, you just walk in. You don't have to wash your hands or anything. If you qualify, you do. No, I do know that when we did the play years ago, I'd been in a double act for a long time. So all the guys in this scene, we were all Warren and Clarke at the same time. So when I phoned them up and said we're making this film about, this film is about us. So they were all up for it. They came along.
We're
So
talking about Eddie Izzard, Frank Skinner, Alan Davidson.
Yeah. Exactly. They all went through this. Everybody at one stage died on stage. It wasn't all. They're not always funny. In fact, a lot of the time they're not funny. I don't mean well, no, some of the time they're not funny. It's just you can't be funny all the time. So the thing about the film is that it's really showing that side of it's a serious business.
The pain behind
the
the
pain,
laughter.
the pain
basically.
behind the laughter. Yeah, exactly.
I think we've got a clip of that scene of the various stand-up comics.
Oh, have we? Oh, great.
So it's a pretty unglamorous business, isn't it? And that's true to your recollections, is it, Simon?
Well, it is. I mean, there's sort of everybody shares this. Everyone's in the. Well, we talk about a dressing room. It's basically normally the corner of the loo and everything. People are rehearsing their gags and stuff, and then you turn around. There's some bloke having a pee next to you and stuff, and you feel a bit of an idiot, and then you've got to go and repeat it all on stage, and he's the bloke heckling you. So it's very unheckling. There's no. You have to. I have huge respect for the comedians, the ones well known and the ones that are unknown, and there are a lot of comedians in it in the film who weren't famous. All the people that play comedians that aren't well known are people who are doing the circuit. They're very funny, but they're playing that. There's a sort of humility. I think there's a sort of humility with comedians. That sounds completely ironic when you watch a lot of inflated egos and stuff, but you're only as good as your last gag. You're only as good as your last gig. And for comedians, it's moments like that sort of death on stage. A bit of you dies each time it happens. So, with double acts, you end up blaming each other. So it was really looking at some of that as well.
I think we've got that clip now of the stand-up comics, the famous ones. Colin, if you had to pay the going rate for all the comics that feature Eddie Izzard, etc., how much would that scene have cost you?
I don't know actually. I mean, they
It
all
would have
did
cost
it
you
for free,
tens of
actually.
thousands of pounds, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it'd be
So
hundreds
it was
of
a
thousands.
good bit of blagging, basically.
It would have been more than the whole budget of the movie,
film.
basically. Yeah.
And Noel, you've had a pretty stratospheric rise to success.
10-year overnight success. Yeah.
In what? So I mean, in some ways, can you relate to the, despite the apparent ease of your rise, can you relate to the struggle of your character?
I mean, it's only it's only 8-9 years ago when I was still working in a gym watching Air on EastEnders. Do you know what I mean? Like or on TV and just going, I'm going to get into acting, and I just started out and stuff like that, and I can borrowing money for travel. We've all been there, right? Borrowing money for travel cards. Your friend's doing a little better than you, and you're like, what job you got? Oh, that's great, man, that's great. Who's casting that? No, don't be silly. Do you know what I mean? You've all been there, and I just think that I got to a point anyway where I was like, okay, if I keep waiting for things to happen, they're not going to happen. So I started making them happen myself, and I think that's what by Warren. Not meeting, but by Warren going back and getting Clarke, that's what he's trying to do. I think he's getting to that stage where he's realising, actually, I need this guy to take me there. And so, yes, I can relate to it.
And Johnny, what about you? Have there been moments when you've thought of quitting, giving up acting?
It's quite an unconventional journey. I didn't go to a big drama school, so I went to a place called Morley College. And then there's someone here actually in the audience who was in a Fringe play with me years ago. I came through the Fringe Theatre, and so we did many of our best performances to One Man and His Dog, and just convinced I couldn't get agents to reply to letters. It just wasn't happening. So I relate to Warren as well, you know, in the sense of that sometimes you thought that you were kidding yourself. But I was quite lucky. I left school quite young, so I had no qualifications. So I was sort of stuck with it. Once I made acting my path, there was nothing else I could really do. So I'm stuck with it now, you know. And thankfully, I think that saw me through a good couple of occasions where I would have given in, you know, and I really would have given in because it really was hard, you know, and really, you know, beyond skin.
It can be soul destroying, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, God willing, you know, you go through, I mean, it's all passing, but I'm having a lovely period at the moment. And then I look back at those days in the Fringe, like Warren and Clarke do, hopefully by the end, and you realise it's about the journey, you know. I mean, in hindsight, I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't change a day of it, you know, but at the time, you know, it was driving me mad, like literally mad, you know, and I think the film is about that.
You never lost faith?
There were some moments where I thought I'd lost my sanity, you know. I don't know whether my faith went with that. I was holding on to something for dear life, I think, you know, but there were some really dicey moments, let's put it that way, and London to Brighton sort of came out of nowhere. And then even after London to Brighton, there was some really scary moments then as well. And going back to your original question about, you know, this script landing on my lap, you know, and it was Ben Miller, and I hadn't met Simon at that point, but I could see straight away it was a really exciting project, you know, and some really exciting people. And so this stuff for me is not lost on me, you know. We're very lucky to be doing what we do, and this is a great film. I really believe in this, and it's you know, it's lovely to be a part of. Yeah.
And Michelle, what about you? I mean, I don't think you've ever struggled, have you? You were born a star.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think you can still struggle on the path because you're kind of... a lot of the women's roles, you know, are kind of a certain way and you're trying to find something different. So I think you can still kind of struggle even if it seems like you're constantly working. I guess I have been lucky and things come up, but it can still be a bit of a struggle sometimes when you read it and you're like, oh, this is meant to be the good female role because I'm not seeing it. but then I have been lucky that I have found the parts that have been really interesting, and this small part in this, it's still, there's something interesting there. It's a different kind of character to what I've played before, and it's getting to work with great people. It really is the people that you work with. It's the team. It's also the script and who's directing, but it is the people that you're with because, as you said, they're all the stories. They're the things that you look back on, and that's what you do it for, really. That buzz. There's a moment that's like, you know, makes your day, and that keeps you going when you're like, oh, I'm not sure about what's coming up.
And you've just finished a film that has quite a cool title. Why don't you tell the audience what it is?
It's called Cockneys v Zombies. So it's it's the zombie genre, and it's really fun, and it's action led, and it's great. There's a real difference between the young cast and then the much older cast. But what we kind of realise is that the older generation have so much that is kind of overlooked, especially in film. It's like they want the young ones, but it's actually like the older guys have so many stories and they still have that twinkle in their eyes. So that was great fun to do.
Would anyone in the audience like to ask a question to our distinguished panel? Don't be shy. Perhaps there's another clip we can watch while you think. Would anyone like to ask a question?
I've got a question, actually.
Oh, there's somebody in the back.
This is for Noel and Johnny. Did you or were you tempted to go and do stand-up as research?
Good question. Were you tempted to do stand-up as research?
I had a go, yeah. Yeah, like you said, I was on it a little bit longer, so I'd gone with Ben to a couple of comedy clubs, and we went through the range, you know. We went to some of the real small ones where you've got the young up-and-coming guys, the Warren and Clarks, you know, trying their stuff out, trying to learn their craft, you know, dying on stage. It was painful sometimes, you know, and meeting all of those guys, you know. And there's a real little community, you know. There's a real sort of sense of community amongst them all, and
You got up on stage.
yeah, I got up. Yeah, my character's not funny, so I didn't have to get up really, you know. In all honesty, but it was just too good an opportunity to miss. And in going to all these comedy clubs, I got to meet a lot of the comedians, the top guys, you know, guys you might not have heard of, but if you go to the comedy, they're the top of their game, these guys. And they were telling me stuff about, you know, what it feels like to die on stage and what it's like to get heckled, and I wanted to taste that. I wanted to feel it and experience it, you know. And I thought this would probably be the only chance I'll ever get. So I did that really, but the thing was Ben Miller wrote me a routine because I didn't know what to do up there, and being Ben Miller, it was very funny, so I didn't die on stage. Everyone loved it and was laughing, and that was a buzz, that was a real buzz. It was I wanted. Once I came off, I think that night I'd sworn blind that that was my new career. I was going to become a stand-up comedian. But I'm just too lazy to. When I got home, and those guys put a lot of work into what looks effortless. They get up and make it look like they're ad-libbing, and those guys are pretty amazing. And I tell you what was fascinating was watching certain comedians do the same set 2 nights in a row. And so like a good actor, they're free and they're riffing, and it changes slightly, but essentially it's a performance. It's like going and watching a play. And I found it fascinating, and I don't know, I mean, there's a little thing in the back of my head that still would love one day to write my own set and give it a try, but it's scary as well, so I think my butt will probably go in reality.
Got any jokes for us now?
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry, I've got a joke.
Yeah, go
It's the only one I remember. An actor comes home from work, or it could be an actress, and...
Well done, mate.
Yeah, no, that's not a joke. That's not it, no, sorry. And his wife or husband is lying on the floor, and all bloody and beaten, and the wife and the actress or the actor is like, "Oh gosh, who did this to you?" And the wife or husband is like, "Oh, it was your agent." And the actor or actress goes, "Did he leave a message?"
That's all right.
Yeah, I kind of ruined it.
That's good.
Leave any messages, yeah.
No, I was there. I came on too late to do to try and do any. I came on quite late to go to any comedy clubs or do anything. But like I said, I think I'm mildly amusing. So I reckon if I was there on that night with Johnny,
So you just coasted by on your natural affinity for humour.
For comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what Colin said anyway.
Yeah, I remember seeing Noel on a I think it was on YouTube or some clip. This was a thing that made me think that Noel had some funny bones in him. There was a story. I'm going to get it all wrong, but it was one which ended up. It was something to do with eating pizza with some flavour pizza that you absolutely hate, and I'm probably going to give all the wrong information out here, but it would ended up with you wearing your partner's knickers. Yeah. And eating a pizza, and you'd lost the bet, and basically that's what you had to do. And it's just you told it in a very fun. It's not so much the material; it's how you tell it. That's half the thing.
Well, it's an amusing story. I cut it short. Basically, I bet my missus that she wouldn't get pregnant in a certain amount of time. But I'm virile. So 2 weeks. See, comedy. See, 2 weeks later, I got the pregnancy test around the back of the head, and she was pregnant. And because I lost the bet, I had to eat. It's anchovies, fucking pizza, wearing her little Frenchies, which were quite comfortable, I must say.
Any photographic evidence you can share?
No. See, the problem with wearing little Frenchies when you're a fella is stuff falls out the front. It's not that attractive. So you might not want to. Well, you might want to see them. I don't know, but most people may not want to see the pictures.
See? Gotcha there, isn't he? Yeah.
Comedy, man, fucking stand up, right?
It's okay. It's going to be on the DVD extras.
We are going to see some of your lighter side actually in your next film, The Knot, which is a romantic comedy.
Yes.
It's been described as 4 weddings and funeral with knob gags, I believe.
Well, 4 weddings and a funeral meets bridesmaids, let's say.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, it's a romantic comedy called The Knot, which I wrote with a guy who's about 57 called Davey Fairbanks, who's not sitting at the back. Not sitting at the back over there. And it's like the old sort of Richard Curtis thing, but it's got our sort of edge to it. It's really vibrant, really polished. And Mina Savari came over from America. We got Tallulah Riley, myself, and it's a good film. And that's planned for Valentine's Day next year.
No guns.
No guns. And I don't say blood once.
And Huge opens tomorrow and is going to be on at the Empire Leicester Square, amongst other cinemas. And if anyone else has a question, please go now, because otherwise we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yes, you, the old man over there with the cap.
I've got a big question.
No?
How you doing? To yourselves, just describe basically just your feeling. You're quite relaxed characters. but you're feeling the fact that you've got it out there now, and it's just like such a weight off the shoulders because, as you were saying, the budget wasn't big, so there's a lot of things you haven't spoken about in sense of pushing for it and obviously getting people to keep believing in it and those who are hanging on. So how does it feel now that it's off your shoulders but it's still out there, but, you know?
It's a good question. It's quite a long process as a producer. It's the first time I've done it, and Bex is the other producer. And it's kind of like a baby that you just can't get rid of for ages. I mean, it's been 2 years since it shot, and we've got brilliant distributors now, and I don't know if you've seen the trailer and the poster, and we're really happy about it, but there was dark days when, it's finished, and you think that the world is really waiting for it, to see it, and it isn't. And, to actually get it out there, you have to market it, and we went to Edinburgh and another London festival, and then finally it got kind of a nibble, and then it takes 5 months to do the deal, and I know this is a bit boring, actually, but anyway, it takes forever, so it's quite a massive relief rather than anything else, but thankfully that's why you hand over the film to a distributor, because they've got fresh energy and fresh eyes, and they actually remind you that it's quite a good film, and they like it, and why you kind of made it in the first place, and so yeah, it's going to be really exciting, and so the release tomorrow night, and DVD, where we make the money,
of course,
will be October the 10th, I think. Anyway, so that's my view of it. But
yeah, my view is that you've used the birth analogy. I'd probably say the constipation sort of analogy. And that's that same feeling. It's a mixture of relief and joy all in one, and just at oneness with everything going on. So it's a fantastic feeling. I've had constipation since we wrote the play years ago. So to me, it's relief, and it's a time to move on. And also, it's great to have it's impossible to. You can't say. Of course, it's exciting. We've got a film called Huge. It's a big title, and it's a little film, and I think that with the two guys who are in it, and Michelle as well, who came along tonight, which is great. Johnny and Noel gave it real heart, and they gave it something real, which was really great in it. So it's very exciting.
So please help it do big business.
So what? Sorry, can you tell us like anything that might be possibly next? So I'm in now. You got me all week. Yeah. Anything possibly might be next? And Michelle, you're very hot. Just put it. I just forgot that. I'm sorry. I've been waiting to tell you that for a long time.
I've been wanting to say that all evening.
Yeah, all evening. Yes. Sorry. What might be next?
Well, for me, obviously, with the working on the back of Huge, obviously, I've realised that there are a lot of other films in the porn industry with Huge in the title, and I thought I should keep that in there, and that could be a great hit. I haven't written it yet, but the rough scenario.
No, would you be up for that?
For me, it'd be.
What porn? Yeah, man.
Okay, so you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Huge porn.
Then you'd know the reason for the title, obviously.
I think you referenced it in your last film, 4321.
I did. I got in trouble for it. Was it you that got me in trouble for it?
Okay, well, thank you very, very much for coming and being such great guests, and especially thanks to our panel who've been so brilliant tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.